History is rarely as simple as good versus evil. The US and Russia, often cast as rivals, have also been uneasy partners. Sometimes America chose to work with Russia, even at the expense of smaller nations. These choices were driven by pragmatism, not idealism. For countries like Poland and Hungary, American decisions shaped destinies, sometimes raising hopes, often leading to disappointment. The story of America and Russia is one of compromise, power, and the consequences of great power deals. It forces us to ask, do the ends ever truly justify the means? During World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union, two nations with vastly different ideologies, formed an unlikely alliance to defeat their common enemy, Nazi Germany. Despite deep mistrust and conflicting visions for the future, they stood together on the world stage, united by necessity rather than friendship. America sent vital aid to Stalin through the Lend-Lease program, delivering thousands of tanks, trucks, and supplies. This support was crucial, helping the Soviets withstand the brutal Nazi onslaught and eventually turn the tide on the Eastern Front. Yet, Joseph Stalin was a ruthless dictator, responsible for the deaths of millions of his own people and the harsh occupation of Eastern Europe. His regime ruled through fear, repression, and violence. The US government was aware of Stalin's atrocities, but leaders chose to prioritize defeating Hitler over confronting these injustices, believing that victory required difficult compromises. For the people of Poland and the Baltic states, this alliance felt like a bitter betrayal. Their hopes for freedom were sacrificed, their suffering overlooked, all for the sake of a larger strategic goal. The truth about the Katyn massacre, where thousands of Polish officers were executed by Soviet forces, was deliberately concealed to keep Stalin's armies fighting alongside the Allies. The partnership between the US and the Soviet Union succeeded in ending Hitler's regime, but it came at a tremendous cost: the loss of Eastern Europe's sovereignty and the beginning of decades of Soviet domination. In the aftermath, a haunting question remained: how much injustice can be justified in the pursuit of victory, and what price is too high for peace? In February 1945, as World War II neared its end, the world's most powerful leaders, Roosevelt, Churchill, and Stalin, gathered at the Yalta Conference to decide the fate of post-war Europe. Their decisions would shape the continent for generations, redrawing borders and determining the future of millions. The atmosphere was tense, with hopes for peace mingling with deep mistrust. Stalin made a solemn promise to allow free elections in Eastern Europe, assuring his Western allies that democracy would flourish. But almost immediately, he broke his word, tightening his grip on the region and silencing opposition. The Red Army swept across Eastern Europe, installing communist regimes and crushing any hopes for genuine democracy. For the United States, the priority was ending the war and avoiding direct conflict with the Soviets, leaving them with little leverage to challenge Stalin's actions or protect Eastern European independence. For millions of Eastern Europeans, the agreements at Yalta became a symbol of betrayal, their futures decided by distant leaders in secret meetings. The United States faced a painful dilemma. Confronting Stalin could mean risking another devastating war, so they chose caution over confrontation. The result was the Iron Curtain, a physical and ideological divide that split Europe for decades. While Yalta secured peace for Western Europe, it condemned millions in the East to decades of Soviet domination and repression, shaping the world order for the rest of the 20th century. During the Cold War, Eastern Europeans clung to the hope that America, the symbol of liberty, would help them break free from the iron grip of Soviet control. Across cities and villages, people tuned their radios to Western broadcasts, searching for signs that the world had not forgotten them. In 1956, Hungarians bravely revolted, inspired by Western promises and the dream of freedom. But as Soviet tanks rolled through Budapest and crushed the uprising, America stayed silent, unwilling to risk a wider conflict. 12 years later, Czechoslovakia's Prague Spring brought a new wave of hope for reform and openness. Yet again, U.S. leaders refused to intervene, watching as Soviet forces ended the movement with overwhelming force. The ever-present risk of nuclear war, with its threat of global destruction, outweighed the desire to help those yearning for freedom behind the Iron Curtain. American rhetoric promised freedom and support, but the harsh realities of realpolitik dictated restraint and caution, forcing leaders to weigh ideals against survival. For those trapped behind the Iron Curtain, these moments of hope and betrayal defined a generation's sense of abandonment, leaving scars that would last for decades. The message was clear: ideals, no matter how noble, often bowed to the cold realities of power and global politics. The cost of stability and peace was paid by those left in the Soviet shadow, their dreams deferred, their voices echoing in the cold silence of history. In the 1970s, America pursued détente, easing tensions with the Soviet Union through diplomacy and arms control. This meant overlooking Soviet human rights abuses for the sake of global stability. After the USSR's collapse, the US often muted its response to Russian aggression from Chechnya to Crimea. Sanctions replaced intervention, as leaders avoided direct conflict with a nuclear power. Each decision balanced ideals against the risks of escalation. Was this pragmatism or betrayal? The answer depends on perspective. The legacy of these choices still shapes the world today. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe for more historical deep dives.